I don't want politics mixed in with my medical decisions.
It's a great question. It's a fantastic sentiment. But we have reached a pivotal place in our societal evolution or devolving, depending on which way you want to look at it. We can't keep politics out of anything. We don't keep politics out of sports. We haven't kept politics out of religion. So apparently, we can't keep politics out of science either. It's going on 18 months that we have been dealing with the coronavirus, the pandemic. Now, let me just say right at the outset, I am not here to dispense medical information. All of you fact checkers, you can rest easy. This is not about being pro-vax or anti-vax. In fact, I'm not dealing with any of that in this commentary. What I am dealing with, what I want to talk about, is just simply the situation itself. We're 18 months in. We do know more today than we did when it first began. Now, there is some evidence, I believe, that we might have been dealing with this really for about 2 years. I can tell you that I knew a number of people in the late fall of 2019 that got severely sick. They thought they had just a severe case of the flu. They went to their doctors. One doctor prescribed one of the people that I knew with double flu with bronchitis. Okay. I really don't believe that the doctors knew at that point what it was that they were actually looking at or dealing with. So I believe it could possibly be longer than 18 months we have been dealing with this. That said, we certainly do know more now today than when it began. Now again, I'm not going to get into the origin. I'm not even going to get into Dr. Fauci, the evil love child of Dr. Kevorkian. I am well documented, and there are plenty of my commentaries available on Fauci being involved in its inception right up to his little eyeballs and his lying mouth before Congress. What I do want to take a hard look at is liberals have admonished conservatives right from jump that we were disinformation, anti-information, anti-science, that we were not dealing with this rationally, that we were coming at this from wild conspiracy angles. And were there wild conspiracy angles? Certainly. I can tell you that even on the Christian right, people were referring to, at that time, the coming vaccine as the mark of the beast. It is not the mark of the beast as outlined in the book of Revelation. Now, what fuels that, and what definitely makes it look like a precursor and a forerunner, when you see what's happening in places like India, and I believe Indonesia, where they are testing the digital passport in such a way that as it's scanned, as long as your vaccination rate or your vaccination status is current, no problem, you can get in, go anywhere you want to go, etc. But if for some reason you scan and it's incomplete or there's an error, well, it isn't just that you can't go into a restaurant or to a theater or to a sporting venue, but because they have everything in their society on this digital app, you get cut off from your bank account. You get cut off from your credit card. You get cut off from your driver's license. You can't vote. You lose. You're literally a walking prisoner. Now, we can talk about the track and trace, but this whole idea that the passport tying to all of your banking records, etc., and if you think that for a moment people like Bill Gates who are involved in that have spent hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars developing this type of technology to simply use it in Asia Forget it. They want this worldwide. So we keep the fear up. We keep up the division, the left versus right, conservative versus liberal, Democrat versus Republican, left, right. It's not left, right, it's right, wrong. It's them versus us. It is amazing to me how liberals, who for so long were so anti-establishment, anti-trusting of the government, anti-big corporation like Big Pharma, now all of a sudden swallow everything they are told hook, line, and sinker. And they're not doing actual critical thinking and asking legitimate questions. And when legitimate questions get asked, like, well, why, if there is an overwhelming avalanche now, 18 months in, of evidence that people who have natural immunity because they already had the virus, that their immunity is actually stronger than a man-created vaccinated immunity, why would they also need to be vaccinated? That's not anti-vax, that's a question. It's just a question. And when you get censored, deplatformed, when you get silenced, well, then obviously you begin to realize I'm circling a target I'm not supposed to be circling. That is the conclusion that you walk away with. And yet, the very people who used to do so much questioning now do no questioning. They have embraced the narrative. They have embraced, and they are so misinformed that they can't see that they are actually doing the very things that for years they have ridiculed, lampooned, and made fun of conservatives for.
But what about liberals? You know, the high information by the science people? In a recent Gallup survey, Democrats did much worse than Republicans in getting the right answer to the fundamental question, what are the chances that someone who gets COVID will need to be hospitalized? The answer is between 1% and 5%. 41% of Democrats thought it was over 50%. Another 28% put the chances at 20 to 49. So almost 70% of Democrats are wildly off on this key question and also have a greatly exaggerated view of the danger of COVID-2 and the mortality rate among children. All of which explains why today the states with the highest share of schools that are still closed are all blue states. So if the right-wing media bubble has to own things like climate change denial, shouldn't liberal media have to answer for, how did your audience wind up believing such a bunch of crap about COVID?
And why is it this way? Because it's been politicized. Rather than just giving us the information and letting us make the decision for ourselves. Because again, it's not about vaccination versus anti-vax. I am not anti-vaccination. I'm not. But I am anti-mandate. Because it is a personal liberty issue. It is a civil right of my body to decide what I will or won't take into it. Period. Period. And the fact that there are those on the left who have for years, that has been their so-called principle, and now they have thrown that completely out. And again, this is not the dissemination of medical disinformation. Studies from Harvard are now overwhelmingly conclusive 18 months in that yes, vaccinated people are spreading the virus. Time magazine has reported on this. The New York Times has reported on this. The Washington Post has reported on this. In fact, you put the math together, and when you see rates go up, you begin to realize that's because the vaccinations are going up. Now, we would say right here that those that are vaccinated, according to the scientific data which is available, suffer far less repercussion as a result. But remember, there was this idea initially that if you got the vaccine, you would not get sick. And now, scientifically speaking, data speaking, that is not the case. Even Dr. Fauci has to admit that. But yet, the reason for the so-called mandate is you've got to get it to protect the people who've already got it. Wait, what? You got to get a vaccination so that the person next to you with the vaccination is safe. There is zero data on that. In fact, the data is actually contrary to that. And, you know, Bill Maher, of all people, asked the great question: if you're going to push back on conservatives over climate change, at what point are you going to push back on how grotesquely on the left misinformed you are? And I'll tell you exactly why. It's because of politics. You see anything that questions the virus and the vaccine of how to treat going forward as pro-Trump, which means if you are anti-Trump, you have to be all things government mandated now. That's it. That's what this has come down to. And when you get hit with real facts, you don't know how to process it.
A stunning statistic was reported. 78% of those hospitalized, ventilated, or dead from COVID have been overweight.
Yep, exactly. But of course, you can't talk about that, or the cancel culture will come after you, and the social justice warriors will come after you, that you're fat shaming. Weight Watchers had to change their name. It's now just referred to, they have a logo, it's just WW. Because somehow losing weight and getting healthy is a bad thing. Hey, where's Michelle Obama on this one? You know, she was the one that was all about gotta move, gotta get these little couch potatoes off the couch and not just playing video games all day. But I think it was something like, 30 minutes a day of activity. And now we've gone from you can't do that, and we've got, forgive me for saying it, this fat chicks in the, the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. I don't look at the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. And I'm not just saying that because my wife watches my videos. I don't look at that stuff. I just don't. But yet, now we've got people of size in all of our fashion magazines, and, you walk in, I think it's American Eagle now, and there's signage on the walls. You got, the skinny Barbie-looking people, and then you got, pear-shaped people, and, and you know what? I that's fine, and I understand about, let's not just needlessly make fun of people. But, as someone who dealt with being overweight, and some of you look at me saying, well, you still are. Well, if you understood that I've lost about 94 pounds in the past 2 years, and I'm doing that because of health issues. So when we talked about we needed to protect the extreme elderly, and we needed to protect people who were at high risk, well, those who are obese, who eat anything and everything and don't take care of themselves are at high risk. But see, we made it, everybody had to follow all of this stuff. I remember going to the supermarket at the height of all of this nonsense. And there was a person riding one of those scooters down the aisle. And you couldn't get by them because they were taking up the aisle. And they had number one, they had a nasty mask on, and that just really grosses me out. And they asked me if I could help them get something off the top shelf, and I reached up and got it for them. And I saw that they had plastic gloves on. They had a nasty mask on. They had their own little thing of hand sanitizer right there in the corner of their basket, and they were literally wiping everything down that was going into their basket. And I wanted to say to them so badly, but I didn't know how to do it tactfully. I wanted to say to them so badly, look, the stuff you're touching and the air you're breathing is not what's killing you. It's what you're putting inside your body, in the food, in the junk food, in the carbs. That's what's killing you. And if you already have serious health issues, you could get something like bronchitis or any virus, and it be the things that pushes you off the edge, and that is what this virus did. Can we, 18 months in, get honest with the stats now? Can we come to the realization, can we get a grip that now even some of the countries that really over-mandated are now easing way back, like Singapore, and have basically said, we're going to create more hospital space, but we're not going to do any more lockdowns or mandates. It is time for people to go back to life and back to living. That's Norway. They've said it's here to stay. We're going to have to figure out how to assume the risk and move forward. See, those are the facts. But the reason we can't deal with the facts is we've got the politics involved, and the politics is we must at all costs prove that this is all Trump's fault. And Trump trying to be optimistic, and Trump not wearing the hat, and only being in the hospital 24 hours and coming out without a hat on. You do know that under Trump, the Operation Warp Speed is what gave us the vaccines, right? You just can't stand the thought that the people on the right may have been more right about this issue than you were. And so the politics says we must keep selling this. Not just because some want control, although that is a political motive for many. Not just because some love the fear, and there are people that are into that sort of thing. But I think for the vast majority on the left who are not pushing back, and there are a lot on the left now who are pushing back. Bill Maher is pushing back. Jimmy Dore is pushing back. Sagar Enjeti is pushing back. There are a number of voices in the left that are now saying, whoa, okay, enough, enough. The reason those on the left, even when faced with facts and science, let it go in one ear and out the other, the reason they can't let it go, it's really simple. They don't want to admit they were wrong. They don't want to admit the conservatives might have been right about this thing. Tell you what, we're going to give you a pass. It's okay. It's okay. In the beginning, we were all learning. It was okay to be afraid. We're now 18 months in. We've got data. We've got facts. Can we get back to normal? Hey, that's it for this rant. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Smack the bell. Click the word all to make sure that you get notification of my rants. And make sure you're following the link to my other channel, because who knows, maybe even what I just said gets purged before the end of the day.